Hey guys, so this video should be pretty quick. I tried my best to organize all my thoughts, I don't know, to have it organized because there's 3 episodes here that we need to catch up on. And again, I apologize that that I have to do this at all, but hopefully you guys still want to hear my opinions about the last 3 episodes because so much has happened. I have to address it before I can even pick back up on the rest of the episodes of the season because I feel like we really had a turning point and just a lot of events that I need to go over. So let's just get right to it. I don't want it to be too long because I want to get this up and edited for you guys before the next episode airs. Firstly, I just want to say that I like this season. I'm just going to give a quick recap of the season as a whole for right now. So far. There are definitely episodes that I enjoy. However, I am a little bit disappointed in the season because, hear me out, I didn't necessarily want a Coven sequel, and I feel like that's exactly what this season is. It's literally Coven 2.0, and I wanted it to be more of a crossover, which granted we have Michael Langdon, of course, from Murder House, but we don't have a lot of the original characters from Murder House. We've only had little glimpses of them, and basically the whole season has been, surrounded by the original Coven actors. We have literally seen every single Coven character come back. So I feel like at this point it is just a Coven sequel, and for me that's a little bit disappointing because it is my 3rd favorite season of all of the seasons of American Horror Story. So I enjoy Coven, but by no means is it my favorite season. I feel like Ryan Murphy really truly created this season as a crowd pleaser to please the audience because the last 4 seasons or so didn't do so well. I feel like people were getting tired of having bad seasons of American Horror Story, and so Coven I think is the most popular and the most loved by the general audience, and so he decided, you like Coven, I'm gonna give you Coven 2.0 and I'm gonna give you a Coven sequel. So that's why I'm a little bit disappointed. I had different expectations for this season. Being Apocalypse, I wanted there to be more of the apocalypse, more of the outside and things like that. So I hope we get to see that come back in the last couple episodes because I feel like we're really missing that. Right now it's just what happened to Coven after we left off. And then of course Michael Langdon is bringing the apocalypse, so we're getting a lot of backstory to all of this and the backstory to Apocalypse and everything, which is cool and all, but I wanted more Apocalypse, more Murder House, I'm sure I'm the only one that thinks this because everyone just friggin' loves Coven, but I wanted something new, and I feel like we're just getting the same old as Coven, Even the side characters that we're getting in this season are related to Coven. They're either witches or warlocks or whatever, so I feel like that's, not helping the fact that this is just a Coven sequel. So let's head back to episode 5 called Boy Wonder, where we see Michael Langdon perform the 7 wonders. In the beginning of the episode, we see Cordelia have a vision of the apocalypse, and she believes that Michael Langdon, or at least this is what she says and what she claims, that Michael Langdon will be the only one to protect them in the apocalypse, but obviously I think we know that she knows that the apocalypse is actually brought on by Michael Langdon because clearly he is not just a warlock. He obviously has much stronger powers than just warlock powers. So I think Cordelia is smarter than that, although everyone I think is underestimating her in this episode, saying why are you even giving him the test? We don't want a male alpha or supreme. We do get to see Misty Day again, which, I love Misty Day. I love a good Stevie Nicks song, thing. That was one of my favorite parts about Coven is the featured episode of Stevie Nicks because I grew up with Fleetwood Mac, so for me it's very special and I love those scenes. But even Misty Day is you should have just left me in my hell because Michael is not good. He made a deal with these kids in the classroom, clearly there was some kind of satanic demonic thing happening, and then he just killed the teacher from her hell, so clearly he's evil, but we knew that. So then in the end of the episode, sorry if I'm going over these really fast, I'm just kind of covering the major things that have happened since we last chatted. So we see Cordelia tell the others that she actually only gave Michael Langdon the test of the 7 wonders to see what his powers truly were, what he was capable of, and to get the last of their witches from her coven to come back, so you know there can be like a big battle. She has all her queens. I was thinking about Queenie. She has all of her witches with her, so she, you know, is more powerful. But again, this episode was very coven. We got to see the Seven Wonders again, so like it's very, very coven. But then we get to episode 6, which is my favorite episode of the whole season, and I really appreciate that the murder house episode was the longest episode in the season, I think. For me, this is what I wanted out of a crossover, although some would argue that it was just a sequel episode to Murder House, but I'd much rather have that than Coven sequel. I don't know, maybe it's just me, like I said. I like Murder House more than Coven, so sue me. But I like that we got to see Madison and one of the warlocks go back and return to Murder House to kind of investigate Michael Langdon's backstory and his childhood and just his history. And of course, Jessica Lange returns for this episode, who is my favorite actor out of the whole franchise. Maybe Kathy Bates next. But I'm really happy that we got to see Jessica Lange come back as Constance again. I loved that. We got to see a lot of closure, if you will, for a lot of the characters that were left in the end of Murder House. So Constance will only talk to Madison and the warlock guy if they get rid of Moira, which is the redheaded, you know, maid lady who is trapped there because her bones were buried. And that scene killed me in the first season of American Horror Story when her bones were hidden forever. That was so heartbreaking, but we finally get to see her closure, and I thought that was so beautiful. I cried so much when I saw this scene of her. They basically dig up her bones and ask her where she'd like to be buried, and she chose her mother's grave. So she's buried with her mom, and so her and her mom's spirit can be with each other forever. And I just thought that was so beautiful, and like finally she gets some peace. I liked the montage that we get to see of Michael as a child and how he is like killing animals and things like that. And Constance said that she thought that he was just going to be a garden variety serial killer, because that would be better than the Antichrist, I guess. You gotta pick, you know, the lesser of two evils. But then of course he ages to like age 10 overnight and tries to kill her, and she realizes it's something else besides just him being a serial killer, and so she decides to end it and kill herself with pills and whiskey, I think. And I think that scene's really sad, and then he finds her, and that's also really heartbreaking because that was the first like motherly figure that he ever knew. We see a lot of characters from Murder House come back. We have Ben Harmon, Vivian, we have Tate and Violet. We got to see all the closure with them as far as Tate and Violet finally, you know, Violet forgiving Tate, even though what he did was horrendous, but they finally are at peace and, you know, don't hate each other. She doesn't have to cry every day. So it's nice to see that those characters can be happy again. And then this is where we see the introduction of Miss Mead, which she plays a Satanist that comes to worship Michael Langdon with her two little friends, one of which being the actress that played Pepper in Asylum. So then they, you know, do a sacrifice. They perform a sacrifice of a girl to like summon Satan, I guess, and then you see him kind of pop out behind Michael Langdon, so it kind of like strengthens his connection with the devil. So this episode by far was my favorite, obviously, because like I said, I'd much rather see an episode about Murder House than I would about Coven, which, you know, I'll take Coven, but I just feel like that's all we're getting lately, so I was really happy to see the longest episode be all about Murder House. So episode 7 is called Traitor, and this is the voodoo episode, which I really enjoyed because that was one of my favorite aspects of Coven. I thought it was a really cool storyline to have like the voodoo witches be against the witches. Are they called the voodoo ladies? It starts off with Joan Collins playing Bubbles as an actress in this one movie, which I think is an ode. I think she played the exact same character in Tales from the Crypt, like Joan Collins did. And then it's revealed to us that she is in fact also a witch, which I just feel like at this point, like, who isn't a witch? Like, when are we gonna see the original two people that episode 1 was entirely based around? When are they coming back as witches and warlocks, you know? I think those characters represent like an Adam and Eve kind of figure, and I think that there's going to be some kind of battle, which, oh, you know what, I'll wait for later. I'm gonna get into that. So Cordelia wants to summon Papa Legba to trap Michael Langdon in the pits of hell. So she wants like an opening to hell to trap him in there forever, and he says in order to make the deal I have to have the souls of all your girls, and she obviously declines that. And then in this scene we get to see Nan return, which I thought was really cool because I love Nan. But again, another Coven character. Like literally every single person from Coven is coming back except maybe the axe murderer. There's so much foreshadowing with Mallory at this point that it's like really, really obvious, but what it's going to turn into is not so obvious because they're hinting at the fact that maybe Mallory is the next Supreme because she has like these powers that are unlike any other and magic that they've never seen. So to me, I interpret that as maybe she is some kind of angel and that ultimately it'll be her battling Michael Langdon as the Antichrist. So I think that there is definitely going to be some kind of battle. I don't think just between the witches and warlocks. I think it's going to come down to Mallory versus Michael. And then maybe we'll see the first two people as like an Adam and Eve kind of character and they repopulate the earth. I don't know. Maybe she brings him back to life and then they repopulate. And then we see how Miss Mead, or like the original Miss Mead, dies. I don't think we've seen her character really come into play because all of this is a flashback at this point. Like it's getting kind of confusing with all the time jumps, like time jumping around, but I think it is symbolic and I am following it, but I feel like it is getting kind of tricky to understand like where they are in the timeline of when the apocalypse happens and you know, where we started this season. I don't know, I hope that they kind of round out what they're going with right now and we get to see more of the apocalypse and like the post-apocalypse and the battle and the fight and things like that. I hope that happens because that to me is better content because it's new content. I'm kind of tired of all this like Coven backstory of like what happened to the witches after Coven. So I'm hoping we get some more apocalypse and like cool stuff, you know, some fighting, some like weird zombie people, like the people infected outside. I don't know. It's just not the season I had anticipated when they announced it was Apocalypse and that it was going to be a Coven Murder House crossover. This is not really what I imagined, but I understand why Ryan Murphy is doing it. I'm sure that there's tons and tons of people who are loving it and ultimately I am enjoying it because we have had really weak seasons lately and I think this is one of the stronger ones as far as storytelling and like scares and things like that. But it is a Coven sequel. I feel like that's what it should have been. It's not really a crossover, really, when every episode all the main characters are from Coven. I don't know, maybe it's just me. You tell me if I'm wrong. I'm excited to watch tomorrow's episode though. I'm filming this on a Tuesday. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below of the season thus far now that we have a majority of the season over with and where you think it's gonna go. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will talk to you soon. Bye.